Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right, JP, we're coming from another exciting day of Senior Bowl practice. Let's start talking about the first team here. What really stood out to you in this first practice?
In the first practice with the national team, I thought the offensive lineman once again stole the show. I think Donovan Ezeraku, edge defender from Boston College, really stood out.
Yeah.
His burst combined with his length, he measured with 34-inch arms, which I think really helped him. He came in as sort of an undersized speed guy, but he's shown the physicality in the run game and in strength in the passing game, and some of the ghost moves, chop moves that he's able to do really helped him unlock some of the things that he was able to attack against these linemen here.
Now, we can't talk about edges in the first practice without talking about what Mike Green absolutely did to Josh Connolly Jr. early on in his practice. Just an absolute showing here. I think that's something he needed to show. He can convert that speed to power. How do you feel about him? How's he moved up your edge rankings so far this year?
I think Mike Green probably should pack it up after today. I think he's good. I thought he was going to be a first rounder coming into Mobile, and he's done nothing to work against that. He has come in and shown he can set the edge in the run game. He's been incredibly fast off the ball, but going speed to power on another potential first round pick in Josh Connolly, that you've seen everything that you needed to see.
He didn't just go see speed to power, right?
He went speed to obliteration. he went speed to destruction.
Yeah, it was very disrespectful what happened to Josh Connolly. They made them go up again. I think Josh got a better rep in that time. Zabel from North Dakota State, I thought he had there were some moments here where I thought he really shined. I thought he's had a pretty good week so far this week. Do you think of him more as a guard or a center, though?
I think you let him try out center and see what he can do at guard, but either way, you're going to get a player who's got nice movement skills, and then his core strength and ability to anchor against these bigger guys has really stood out to me. You know, coming from North Dakota State, making that jump up to a higher level to defensive players who are playing at Power 4 universities and bigger guys, he's shown a lot of ability to not only maintain, but he's rarely lost a rep here in Mobile.
Yeah, it's been interesting too, because I think his feet, like his athleticism, a lot better than I anticipated it being. Like, I think that's one of the things he's done really well when he's been asked to recover or been in situations where he had to recover. Did you get to see any of the running back linebacker drills today?
Yeah, I thought the running backs and linebackers did really well. I think there were moments there where I was a little bit frustrated with some of the linebackers in coverage. I think Nick Martin had the best day, Oklahoma State linebacker, but he's more of a coverage guy anyway. But the running backs have shown that they can be really good in space. So you're going to get this running back class is already incredibly deep. You're going to get some of those guys, some of those moments from these running backs.
I thought Donovan Edwards was interesting because he kept doing pretty good stuff until the ball became a factor in what he was doing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, Donovan, what the fuck, man? Like, it was just like constantly that with him. Like, when he had fumbled 2 times today.
Yep.
Had the drop touchdown where he won it was a double move, which is kind of cheating in a one-on-one. But he had looked very fluid in that situation. And then he just does these things. How do you project a guy like him who, you know, he had that hot freshman season, but now you look at him and you're like, I think he's a 6th, 7th round pick, maybe even undrafted. Like, what do you do with a guy like that in a class this deep?
Well, I think for Donovan Edwards, you're going to get a lot of projections towards day 3. You're going to get a lot of guys saying, like, he can be more of a change of pace back. I worry a little bit about the long speed and, like you said, ball security. He's shown that he can create separation. There's a viral rep going around right now of him putting Karane Reed from Utah on his butt. On an angle route. And so you see these things, and then you see him with the ball in his hands, and it's like, where was that before? Where was all the explosiveness before? So it's going to be tricky to kind of break down what Donovan Edwards can be at the next level, but he's probably going to be more of a change of pace, more of a 2nd or 3rd back.
Ollie Gordon was an interesting one to watch in those drills, too, because I think he could do more than what he has. He looked like somebody who's never been asked to go out there, really catch anything that's that complicated, put a lot of steps into his cuts. But I think if he just learns a little bit more, simplifies his process, cuts some of these extra footsteps out, he has enough quickness where I'm like, I think he can do a little bit as a receiver out the backfield. What do you do with Ollie Gordon here? Another guy who was looked at as a top running back coming into the year. His stock has fallen a little bit, but big body guy, kind of built like Todd Gurley, just doesn't have that top speed.
Yeah, I think with Ollie Gordon, you have to really assume what he can be at the next level. I think Ollie Gordon is such a good tackle breaker and so strong. I mean, he's one of the biggest running backs here, and he's able to drive through contact. And he runs a little high waisted. He's a very tall running back. He runs tall, and I think you see that as a receiver. He doesn't really sink his hips in passing game, but I think there's a role for him at the next level. If you get him in a gap scheme for a team like maybe the Chargers or someone who's looking for a hammer, that's going to be able to get you those singles and doubles, I think Ollie Gordon can really do that. He's very similar. I think somebody said a little similar to Najee Harris, but I also think he's a little bit like Gus Edwards from the Chargers, formerly of the Ravens. And at his best, Gus Edwards was the red zone touchdown machine, but because he was able to just consistently grind out yards. And I think that's something Ollie Gordon can do at the next level.
Yeah, I look at him, I had the same thought too, where I'm like, maybe he could do a little bit what Najee does there in Pittsburgh. Like, they're bad year to be a free agent running back, by the way, because there's going to be 14, 15 guys drafted in this class. And it means a lot of older running backs going to be on their way out.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Najee, I had that same thought where I'm like, okay, he kind of reminds me of that style of back who's a little bit more patient. He'll wait a little bit, but he does pack a very heavy punch, and he's built for it, right? Let's kind of transition into the second practice of the day, which started out very slow. Thank you, Bubba Ventrone, for that. First, let's talk about the trenches here. O-line, D-line guys had a fun moment at the end of practice. Vemery Jones and the edge rusher from Texas. Who do you think's kind of helped themselves make the most money on both sides of the defensive and offensive line here today?
I think Emory Jones has been the best tackle here for the American team, and it's something that is really interesting when it comes to Jones's draft stock. He was projected as a higher first-round pick coming into the season, really didn't put together a very good season at LSU, and some people might think he might be better as a guard. He got reps at guard today, and he looked really good. So he's another one of those guys who's incredibly athletic. He tends to overset a little bit, and that gets him into trouble. But he's such an impressive athlete, and the competitive nature really stood out today. The battles he had with Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M and then Barron Terrell from Texas are going to be ones that I'm going to remember for a very long time. So I think he stood out a lot. I think you get into Willie Lampkin from North Carolina, who was a late add-on to the Senior Bowl roster. He is a outlier at the center position in every aspect. He is a generous 5'11", a generous 270, but he's consistently moving guys at center and guard. We really haven't seen guys who are, especially centers, who are under 300 pounds. The most notable one is Jason Kelsey, but we also don't see centers who are under 6 feet. So I wonder truly where Willie Lampkin's draft stock is and if he's playing himself into being drafted because he's just winning every single rep.
1 second. Okay, it's just low. Sorry about that. You're good. Mic check. All right. Okay, and who do you think stood out like at the tackle position this week?
At tackle position this week for the American team, I've actually kind of thought, oh goodness, who was the tackle out there today? Miles Frazier. He had some nice reps at guard and tackle. Another one of the LSU kids, I think, from the American.
The LSU kids are showing up today.
The LSU kid, again, it's a very big indictment on Brian Kelly that the Rookie of the Year is in the NFL right now. The next two candidates for Rookie of the Year are also from LSU, and you have all these great players here, and you went like 9-3 and 8-4. I also think Carson Mitchell from Alabama A&M has really stood out.
He's a name I've been hearing a lot, yeah.
Small school guy, incredible athlete, but he plays with a mean streak. He is going to try and put people in the dirt. I think he played really well. He kind of acquitted himself well. He had some rough moments on tape against higher schools like Auburn, had some rough moments against Vanderbilt in 2023, but having this week here really helped him out a lot. I think he's somebody that a good offensive line coach can bring in and develop into a quality starter in a couple of years.
Yeah. There was a kid out here. I did not have him on the roster. I think 51 out of Kansas.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he had a good day. There was another kid from Miami, War 60. He was good yesterday. Yeah, he had a bit of a rough day today, especially like inside, getting beat like on his inside shoulder here. So it was an up and down day for I think a lot of guys on the offensive defensive line. Shamar Stewart's one of these guys that we've been interested in. Think about him. He's going to be the conversation of a lot of draft debate here, right? I think Edge 2 this year is going to be interesting, right? Because you have Jalen Walker there. Other people have Mike Green. And then Shamar Stewart is somebody that a lot of people like here. All the traits in the world, size and length, has really good moments on tape where you're like, oh my God, you can just see it with them. But the production has never been there for him as a football player. What do you do with a player like that? And has a player like that had the week that they've needed here to be where you think their stock should be?
So I think with Shamar Stewart, the thing to understand is the production, the sack numbers aren't there, but he also has the most quick pressures of any defensive lineman in 2024. So he's getting there. He just doesn't know how to finish plays yet.
Yeah.
And then you see the athletic measures: 6'5", 281, 83-inch wingspan. He's a monster. And then he had a play today during practice in the team sessions where he blows up a play before it can even start.
Yeah.
Burst and bend around the corner at 6'5", 280 pounds. That's something that you don't see out of a lot of guys in the NFL. I actually think Stewart's going to go a lot higher than people think. I think he's going to go higher than both of the Georgia players.
Really?
Because you just don't find guys with those athletic tools, and you can turn him into something. Because I know the underlying numbers are much better than the raw stats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not one of those situations where it's like there's no win rate, like, he's not getting any pressures or anything.
Winning, it's just he can't finish the play.
And do you kind of equate him to somebody like who would you compare him to? Like
I think the best comparison, he's the more Trayvon Walker.
Trayvon Walker.
Between him and Michael Williams from Georgia, I think he's more like Trayvon Walker because he has that bend.
Yes.
He has that burst. I think Michael Williams is a little bit stiffer and might be a little bit better as a run defender right now. But if you get him on that Trayvon Walker plan, who's a very good player, 10 sacks each year, I think that's something that Shamar Stewart can develop into as a hand in the dirt edge.
It's going to be interesting there. All right, let's talk about running back DB drills. This one, RJ Harvey. Yeah, he does that, right?
That's my guy. That's my guy. I know he's 5'7", but he's got huge legs.
Yeah.
His contact balance is incredible. And he's adding something in the passing game.
Yeah.
He has to do while being deficient height-wise.
Yeah. And it's like he's short. He's not small, though, right? I think that's the biggest, because you can be short at running back because you want to stay low. Maybe you're harder to find. But it's kind of like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation where, like, okay, he's not small, though. Like, you look at him out here, he wouldn't look out of place in the NFL running back room like today if he was right there. So he has that build that I like out of him. What about, like, Devin Neal?
I love Devin Neal. Just the vision, the acceleration, some of the agility stuff that he's able to do, the footwork, and I think he's shown a lot as a passer and a receiver in the Senior Bowl practices. He didn't do a lot of that at Kansas, but I think he's able to do that at the NFL level. That's going to boost him up a lot of draft boards. He's right now kind of that day 2, day 3 range, but I think he's playing himself into a solid day 2 role.
All right. So who made the most money this week in your mind?
Oh, man. Who made the most money this week? It's tough because there are a lot of guys who played really well. But I'm going to go with Darius Alexander from Toledo.
Okay.
I think he came in.
What position does he play?
Defensive tackle from Toledo. He is incredible. He won every rep on the inside, then started winning on the outside, was also winning in the run game.
This tackle class, man.
The deep tackle class. Just so many different flavors and styles.
Oh, yeah. It's like what you want. It's like the candy store, running back and defensive tackle.
Go ahead. If you want a free tech, you'll find one. You want run stop and nose tackle, you can find one. I think Alexander's best as a 3 technique in a 4-down scheme where he's able to really get after passing offenses or through one gap. And he just uses that quickness and variety of winning in multiple fronts. I think he's solidly playing himself into early day 2.
All right. Who lost the most amount of money today?
Man. Can I just say all of the quarterbacks?
Oh my goodness, man.
I'll just say all of the quarterbacks.
It's been rough.
I think the best passer has been Seth Hennigan from Memphis, but it's been rough.
Yeah.
It's been rough for the quarterbacks, especially because you're throwing the guys that you don't know.
It is a rough environment for a quarterback because that happened with Bo Nix last year, where he looked like absolute garbage. And same thing with Penix, right? And a lot of people were low on them coming out of here. But it was like like with Milroe, he had 2 reps where I was like, goodness gracious. Where one, he just like threw this thing and it was like 3 inches above the ground for like 10 minutes. And I was like, how did that even come out of your hand? And the other one was just straight up interception after he got sacked because he held on to the ball too long. I'm like, well, that's both the things you're worried about with Jalen Milroe right there, right here in practice.
Milroe has had a rough couple of days. I think Jackson Dart has shown a lot of issues with holding on to the ball. He's shown a lot in practice. He's shown a little inconsistency in terms of attacking downfield. Riley Leonard is battle-tested, proven guy, but I don't think this is the environment for him to actually try and push downfield. That's something that he really doesn't do.
Yes.
And Hennigan's the only one truly trying. So, all the quarterbacks.
Yeah, Canadian guy's not doing himself any favors.
I think Gabriel's been rough. And then Tyler Shuck has arguably one of the best arms here, but he's been on and off. So all the quarterbacks have really lost some money.
He's my candidate for guy who gets drafted in round 5, and we're like, really? Tyler Shaw? Okay. Didn't expect that one.
He's gonna end up playing. He's gonna end up starting for a team, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's like
the Clayton Tune Award, right? Like the Clayton Tune guy. But yeah, it's been a rough one, I think, for pretty much every quarterback here. Hennigan's been fine, but you didn't have any expectation of him. It's looking real day 3 at quarterback after Ward and Sanders, right? Like, it looks like that conversation starts there and maybe wherever Will Howard sits. I think he lost money not being here, right? I mean, like,
he made money.
You think so?
Yeah, because look at everybody else.
Because I'm like, if he were here and he looked anything like he did in the playoff, he would look so much better. And I think people would start trying to like really be serious about pumping him into like the second round, maybe even late first, because there's a guy every year that gets that boost. And I'm like, there's nobody here getting it right now.
I see that, but I also see all these other guys not playing well.
And think
like,
it's
he didn't show up, but he didn't have to because everybody else is playing themselves out.
Yeah.
QB3, QB4 range. I think the person who benefited the most from this is actually Kyle McCord at Syracuse. He played well. Max Brosmer played well at Shrine Bowl, and now all the guys at Senior Bowl not playing really well. You're like, oh, these Shrine Bowl guys have been killing it. I'm curious to see what their draft stock is after a good week of practices in Texas.
It's going to be interesting to see what this week has done for players. Still one more practice tomorrow in Mobile. Thank you, JP, for coming out. Any other last thoughts you want to get out here? Any agendas you want to push before we head out?
The intensity today was real.
Who was that guy? Who started that fight early?
I think one of them was Yaya Black and Wyatt Milo.
It's always Yaya Black.
It's always Yaya.
Yeah, it's
always Yaya Black. The Auburn kids got into it with Emory Jones today.
Oh, yeah.
McLeod from Auburn.
Yes.
Eugene Asante was out here thumping folks. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. Talked to him the other day. Big anime fan. He decleated somebody.
17, right?
Play. Yeah.
Yes.
Obliterated him, and that got the defense hyped up. We need that intensity from these practices. This is the day, the full pads, everybody comes out. This is the most intense day of the week, and they showed it today.
I think Shamar Stewart won a rep and just screamed as loud as you could hear, "I'm like that." In team drills. So yeah, pretty interesting day. JP, thank you for wrapping up day 2 with me. Everybody else, y'all have a great day. Have even better night. Peace.